spotlight, U.S. stocks, as you can hear there, rallied today, closing out the week on a higher note than it started. Investors on Wall Street are reacting to new data that showed inflation cooled from May to June. The S&P 500 is up an impressive 15% so far this year. That's what's reflected in a lot of retirement accounts. Yet despite those gains, along with historically low unemployment and strong economic growth, there are still many Americans weary about the state of our economy and their own financial situations. It's a phenomenon that analysts have dubbed the vibe-cession. With the election right around the corner, what does this vibe-cession mean for the presidential race? Let's bring this question to our panel, Mike, Kaivan, and Barbara. Mike, what do you make of this vibe-cession phenomenon, that the vibes are there for a recession, but there's really no recession in the data? Are people talking about this on your radio show? What are the vibes you're hearing?
Absolutely, Elizabeth. This is one of those mad situations where what people on the ground are feeling mentally is not actually reflecting in all the economic indicators, which you often talk about, always see your great reports of how strong the economy is doing. I think it comes down to just a couple simple factors of that the American public just isn't, astute on economic discourse and economic verbiage. If you look at a report came out just this week, that GDP rose 2.8% in the second quarter. Most Americans don't understand what a GDP is or what it means to rise by 2.8%. They understand that the unemployment is down, but some people are still having trouble finding employment. They have yet to see the reflection that their wages have actually gone up over the last 4 months above the inflation rates, but yet that has been reflective in the paychecks that they see that mentally, so they haven't been able to make that connection because, Elizabeth, the tangible things that they see every day is what they still see as expensive. Like rent, for example, is still high. Mortgage rates are still high for individuals who are looking to be first-time homeowners. And so just those everyday first-of-the-month dynamics have not gone down yet and still making it complicated, which is why it's hard to make that switch. And coupled with social media plays a big role in this, it's this echo chamber, Elizabeth, of like, well, it seems fun and trendy to always say how bad the economy is. And so it just reinforces the mentality that the economy must be bad, although the indicators say opposite.
I know I get a lot more comments when I post stories about bad news on the economy than I do about good ones. Barbara, when we look at what the polling says about this, voters do generally rank Republicans higher than Democrats when it comes to the handling of the economy. What do you think's behind that? Does that translate into momentum for the GOP, not just, the presidential race, but down the ballot in November?
Well, it didn't turn out to really do that in 22. When the wind was supposed to be at Republicans' back. And I think, once again, for the vice president, she's going to have some pretty good timing because it looks like there's going to be a soft landing. You may even have it looks like there's going to be a rate cut in September. So coming out of the convention, she could get some really good headwinds in the economy. So, and Donald Trump doesn't talk about the economy that much. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter, and he's talking about sharks, and he's talking about his legal problems a lot of times. So I think now when you have the vice president much better at articulating everyday kitchen table issues than, unfortunately, Joe Biden was able to, I think you're going to have a lot better opportunity come Labor Day for the Democratic ticket to be able to take these issues to the public.
It's a good point that whoever takes office in 2025, the economy will be, by a lot of measures, in really good shape, setting up a good starting point, at least. Kaivan, curious what you think of this vibe-cession and why President Biden maybe doesn't get the credit when you look at this historically strong economy by a lot of measures.
Well, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges people always ask me is, why can't Democrats get this message through to the voters about the economy? Because we've been hearing now for months that it is doing well and it is so strong. And I think there are two opportunities with this sort of Kamala reset, because first of all, for the first time, and I don't think any campaign could imagine this, they're carrying her speeches on every topic, including the wonky policy ones on every network. That's amazing. So she has the ability to command attention there. And you sort of have this concurrent thing where now, because Joe Biden's out, you do have the takes and the debrief and let's look back at what really was one of the most historic presidencies of our modern times, including with all these economic wins. So hopefully those two messages at the same time will pierce through and the voters will understand the economy's in good shape.
We like those wonky policy remarks here on ABC News Live. Take those whenever we can, guys. Mike, Kaivan, and Barbara, thanks so much. Stick around.